What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Die Is podcast. My name is Alex, and I am joined by Justin and Nick.
Howdy.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you guys doing?
I'm living the dream.
Doing pretty well.
Every day a little bit better than the last.
So what have you guys been up to since our last podcast? What have you been playing? What have you been painting? I know you've been painting a bunch of terrain.
I've been painting a crazy amount of terrain. I got 2 tables worth of terrain that are on my workbench right now, and they are very time-consuming project for as simple as the paint jobs I'm going for. Very time-consuming. There's a lot of surface area to cover.
But they're looking good.
I'm liking them so far.
Yeah, it'll be exciting for the channel.
I think so.
It's always nice to get like a table full of really nice terrain. I had one of our friends make up a bunch of terrain for me, and it just I love it. It sucks that half my models aren't painted, but the terrain at least looks nice.
Yeah.
I've never had like a full set of themed terrain. I've had bits and pieces that I assemble, and so having 2 full sets where I could be like, this is the ruined village, or this is the graveyard, and fill a whole table with some different options, some mixing and matching. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, well, when we started playing first edition, it was like, hey, there's a turned over cup. That's a tower.
There's a barrel of pretzels.
We grabbed a rock from outside.
Here's 3 aquarium toys I got at Goodwill.
Yeah.
And Santa's Village. That usually
There
goes
we
on
go.
the tree.
There we go.
So what have you guys been playing lately? I know you've been playing a lot of Legion of the First Prince.
I'm
you've
still
been
on
all over the
Nurgle.
place, yeah.
I'm still really loving Nurgle. Like, for as much grief as that book took early on, there's just so much depth because it's an older army. Tons of different models. Like, really good internal balance, like with stuff doing, everything having a pretty good purpose. There's a couple of stuff you won't play, but I feel like it's still new to me.
And it's competitively strong.
Yeah.
In a way that people, I think, didn't expect when the book dropped.
Sometimes, like, if you double turn into like an Idoneth army, stuff gets crazy.
Sneaky damage in that army.
Yeah, unfortunately. And resilience, somehow.
Yeah, very resilient.
Like you mentioned, I've been playing Legion of the First Prince. I'm in love with the army. I'm still playing some Stormcast here and there.
That tells you the kind of person Nick is.
Oh, I'm the scummiest of the meta chasers.
It's dragons, Legion of the First Prince.
Well, I mean, why bother with A tier?
Yeah, right. No reason to.
And Legion of the First Prince is kind of one of those armies that not a lot of people play against very often, and they've got a lot of
Good for
cool.
them.
Yeah, they've got a lot of cool rules.
It plays so differently than any other army. It's really a control style of army, and strength aside, I think it's really interesting just to play a completely different game plan.
Well, the funny thing is, it's not really unbeatable. Like, it's not fun to play against, and there's like wacky good rules in the book. But I mean, you can shoot stuff off. If you have a couple of Bastiladons, you're not going to have fun as the
Bastiladons will get it done for sure.
Yeah, that's +1 damage. It's pretty much your whole army.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
But it's such, like I said, it's so different, and that's really fun and exciting for me to explore that.
Yeah, and you're saying it's nice to have 4 armies to pull from, but really you only pull from 3.
Yeah, you can pull from 3 books plus the Contorted Epitome. So that's kind of nice. How about you? What have you been playing?
I have been playing Idoneth as much as possible, trying to get them ready for the Spring Rubicon, trying out pretty much the same list with a couple tweaks here and there.
Sure,
and,
refinement stage.
Yeah.
Bringing screens.
Who knows what I'm doing at this point. But, man, that is a fun army to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like super technical, and it feels like everything's won or lost on priority rolls.
Save it. We got to talk about that soon.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it.
Hey, we're
Yeah,
going
we
right
could get
into
right
it.
into it. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just roll. Well, tell us about your experience playing.
Well, so we did have 2 new books, Fyreslayers and Idoneth. I'm more on the Idoneth side. I know you guys are excited about some Fyreslayers stuff. But
I am excited about it. Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever play it, but I'm excited about it as a book. I'm glad it exists.
You know what I'm really excited about is that I think GW has shown the ability to write pretty consistently good books. I think just my overall take was that when IDK and Fyreslayers came out, everybody was like, IDK's going to rule the world, and Fyreslayers is, like, mediocre. Well, now I've kind of been hearing a lot of different things, like, now a lot of people are saying, or I'm saying, IDK is a little bit of a glass cannon, and you better know what you're doing and better have a plan as far as how you're setting up your deployment, your screens, and stuff like that, because they're not going to take a double turn, they're not going to take an alpha super well.
Right.
And I've been hearing people saying Fyreslayers are like the sleeper book, like they're great.
I see a lot of potential in the book, and there's one role in particular in the book that Games Workshop has just struggled with and failed with over and over again, and that's the combat foot hero. And Fyreslayers feels like they finally maybe got it right.
Yeah, so we're going to skip over here.
That's fine.
Forget it.
That's fine.
Like,
I'm learning at the same time.
So, I've been reading through the Fyreslayers book, and I have, like, Dakota that I mentioned that I went to Brewhammer with, and Austin. They're super excited about the army. They've been throwing lists at me constantly, and I'm just trying to catch up. But the thing I'm loving is, like, there's tons of good artifacts.
Yep.
Each of the lodges has a purpose. Like you were saying, the foot heroes are good. The only thing that they completely whiffed on was the Orc Hearthguard. Like, they're completely unplayable, but everything else has a role. Like, Volkite Berserkers are back. Stick 30 of those into someone with a Battlesmith behind them. Those just aren't getting shifted.
Right.
Well, and we've talked about that before with some of the other books in 3.0 that have come out. They're trading quantity for quality on artifacts and command traits and stuff like that. So it seems like everything at some point is usable, at least situationally.
Yep, and there are some combinations where you can really start stacking up, particularly your once per game effects, and really kind of building in some combos and some pieces that come together and just blow things up.
Question: is there ever going to be an army that doesn't have the Runefather on Magmadroth? Just to, I mean, it's 360 points, which isn't prohibitively expensive.
Sure.
And if you boost him up, he just slays. I think you have to be a little bit more careful with how you go in. I was watching a measured gaming video today, and he just like launched him, and he didn't get like a good charge, so that he couldn't get like the good double pile in.
Yeah.
And then he got killed on the backswing real quick. But
the one thing that might prevent some of the Runefather on Droth dominance is how a lot of the foot heroes have the Honored Retinue rule, and so they've got that amazing pass off, which in many ways makes them more durable than a Magmadroth at fewer points. So when you're investing those artifacts, when you're investing those once per game abilities that are really going to blow something up, you can get them on a foot hero. It's still going to kill whatever it gets into.
You just got to hope it gets in there.
Right, but the durability and you know, the Runefather on Magmadroth is a very appealing target for the opponent.
Definitely is. I'm all, like we were talking, I mean, it's hard not to like Magmadroths, right? Like, just bring as many as you can, and then, like, my list is 4 Magmadroths, 2 Ruined Suns, a Smiter, another Smiter on foot, Battlesmith. Well, I don't really know if this is my list. And then the Father, and then a couple...
This is some units, I know.
Sure.
A couple of Volkite Berserker units, and, it feels like it's going to be, if not good, fun, you know, and competitive, relatively so.
And they didn't get away from what Fyreslayers should feel like and does feel like. In second edition, that entire book, incredibly slow army, incredibly killy, incredibly durable, but they're going to have problems getting there. A little bit of the worry is that they were going to say, you know, this is a problem with the army, we're going to fix it and make things fast or give everything deep striking and all those things. And they didn't. They resisted that temptation. They kept it a relatively one-dimensional army, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that we've always talked about, not necessarily us, but our group, is like, if an army's slow, do you make it fast? If an army's fast, like way too fast, do you make it slow? And it's like, just enhance what the army's supposed to do, and it will make the slow, you know, not as big of a deal, and it'll make the army feel more thematic and still be decent.
And feel different, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always worry about that with new unit releases. If it's filling a hole in an army, sometimes armies should have holes.
Yeah, for sure.
And they should have gaps that makes them more interesting to play. You know, you look at Soulblight and they don't have any ranged. And they shouldn't.
No, right.
And it makes more interesting. Fyreslayers is the same way. They've got the Magmadroths, which have some speed. They've got the once per game deep strike through the is it the battlesmith?
No, Ruin Smiter.
Rune Smiter, the one that gets them there. But then, other than that, you're looking at about a bunch of 4-inch movement dwarves running up the field,
Holding
depending on the
spots
runes.
and
Yeah, standing there and saying, "Come take me off!" Right?
yeah. And I've heard people, you can't find any Grimwrath Berserkers anywhere.
Sure.
So maybe I'm missing it so far, but maybe there's going to be an army running like 6 of those guys. Just
I don't know that you're going to run 6 of them, but when you take one and you give him, you double his attacks characteristic a couple of times, and then you give him fights twice.
yeah, he fights when he dies.
And then he fights when he dies. You can do some work.
Well, I think people are excited about them because you can't find them. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think people are just excited about the possibility of throwing their little angry dwarf man into Archaon and coming out on top.
Yeah. And like the cool things is too, like for this book, you can take dwarf allies, and they can benefit from allegiance abilities. And that,
Yeah, there's the one. It's a command trait, I believe.
Yeah.
That gives them the runes for your allies, which is fantastic. I think.
So Gotrek, all of KO, all of the free cities.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff. It's good stuff.
The list that I really want to run from the book is a Runefather on Droth, 2 Rune Sons on Droth, a set of Volkites. This is in Lofnir, so the Rune Sons are battle line, and then a 30 block of Arcanauts with that command trait. So you can give them that once per game rune that gives them the mortal wounds. Bucket of attacks out of the Arcanauts. I'm super excited about it.
You're spoiling it.
I know.
You're gonna shock everyone in the world with your Arcanauts coming, and now that all 100 people that watch this are gonna be all over it.
I love Arcanauts to begin with, right? When I build my KO armies, I like get more Arcanauts.
And that's a way to give the army that doesn't have a lot of units, which everybody complains about, access to more units that are benefiting from allegiance abilities. Let's get some dwarf copters in there.
Yeah.
Let's get some.
I don't know if I always like the just ally some stuff in.
It doesn't feel as much like an ally to me though if they're getting allegiance abilities.
Yeah.
And this is very much in keeping with the current theme for dwarves with the Grungmi coming back and uniting the dwarves, or starting to.
That was the big rumor, is that we were going to get one big dwarf book. It was going to be like the Orc War Clans book where you had the 3 different and then you had the soup mix. And I mean, it didn't happen, but this is like interesting way to do it.
Yeah, this is Dwarf Book Light.
Yeah,
for sure. It's still good to bring stuff.
I'm going to throw my phone in.
Yeah, but all in all, I think it's a good book. I think it's an interesting book. Some of the things that people are talking about is the ability to run like an adventuring party of foot heroes, where you've got these foot heroes in different roles, and they're it feels like a bunch of little dudes going to do some work.
Yep.
Unlike a lot of armies where those foot heroes are just a buff piece for the things that are actually doing the work, the foot heroes are out there. They're killing. They're sticking in combat. They're fighting, and having the durable pass off so that they can stay there. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and it's just a testament to that we're getting new interesting armies and things that are coming along the way, which we're expecting Sylvaneth Nighthaunt daughters again, and
we're expecting
Skaven.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me optimistic, whereas you used to be really, oh no,
yeah,
who's
it
gonna
used to
write
be
my
like,
book?
oh yeah, half the books were just immediately thrown right to the bottom.
Yeah, that Sylvaneth book was probably the worst book I've heard of them all.
I would beg to differ. As
that's a good
player,
point.
I mean,
Sorry.
there's maybe a competitor for that title, but it seems like they have, since that Slanesh book, really every book that's come since that has really kind of nailed it.
Yeah. And what do you think about, you're our experienced Idoneth player right now?
Well, you're an experienced Idoneth player as well.
But I haven't been playing the new book.
I haven't played the new book. I really like this army. I really like this book. It seems like it hinges on like just a couple things going right, and then the entire, like, if you get a double turn with this army, it's like, all right, well, I'll just pick up my stuff and the game's over. It's like not a big deal. And if you get doubled, it's like, all right, well, I can go home.
Yeah,
no big deal. Get the rest of your points.
And so much of if you're going to be competitive with this army, so much of this is going to be fighting against that, right?
Yeah.
Being able to castle your way through a potential double,
and try to mitigate as much.
That, yeah. And it's going to be an interesting challenge, I think.
Well, going back to the beginning, so everybody, like my review, the reviews I watched on the book was like, the Achillean King is super broken. It's still super good.
It's really good.
Incredible.
Volturnus is great. Both Eidolons are good. I think the Soul Scryer lacks a little bit, but you could find ways to play it.
Losing that 3-inch bonus to charge really kind of
The Deep Strike is a lot less attractive now.
Yeah.
But Octopus Boy is now
Lotan
is all of a sudden really interesting.
Lotan is very hard to pull from lists. We were talking about it before we started the podcast. +1 to wound in a 12-inch bubble that affects mounts, that just affects everything in that 12-inch bubble.
Right.
You can hit 2 units of 20 thralls. I was doing it against Zinch the other day, and like hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s with 1 unit with all-out attack is so good.
And in so many armies, you'd have that foot hero, that buff piece with that big aura, and you'd put him out there, and you'd just say, well, that's 130 points that I wasted because he's going to get shot off immediately, and IDK just shuts that off, right? You can't shoot him off. You can kill him with mortal wounds and magic and things like that. There are things you can do to interact with him, but he's probably going to get some buff effect there.
Yeah, and this army plays really well into shooting armies, and Alpha Strike armies. Like, you can do things against Alpha Strike armies, but you need to be able to, like, one drop and kind of choose your own fate.
That's one thing we kind of... I hate that... That's the one kind of, like... It's an Idoneth issue, but I think it's a game issue right now. It's just the importance of being one drop is just... Seems so, like... If you really want to be super competitive, being able to dictate, or at least get a dice roll to be able to try to decide...
It's a separate topic, but it's tied to Idoneth because Idoneth takes that to another level where that priority decision for Idoneth is make or break it against a lot of armies.
Yeah. And like you were talking about with the feel of armies, an army of soulless husks should kind of feel like a glass cannon.
Yeah.
But it's the priority is super
You're not leaving home without screens ever again, right?
Yeah.
And you're just going to be very careful to bubble those so that...
Yeah, well, and if you're playing lists like I am, I'm playing 60 thralls right now, trying to, figure out how to make it work, just because I love thralls, and I've always wanted to play them.
And they're great.
Yeah, and now they're, like, really good. And before they were good, but they had 1-inch range, so you could run, like, 10
and they weren't elite.
Or they weren't, they couldn't use command abilities. They got an additional damage on wounds of 4 instead of 3,
which is a big swing in some armies.
Yeah, against screamers is great.
Yeah,
but it's just really hard when you're like, all right, so I have thralls. That's my main game plan. I have Alapexes. They're way more expensive, but they're way tankier. So I'm just going to throw them in front to screen with everything.
Sure.
And that doesn't feel like a great trade-off.
No.
The shipwreck though makes thralls point for point pretty durable.
Yeah.
You're spending 130 points on 10 wounds, which isn't great for what you want to be at, especially on that 5-up save. But then you get that 5-up ward if you can get them into a shipwreck bubble.
Yeah, definitely. And with the ability to get another 5-up ward in turn 3, or whenever you activate the king ability, or you can have Lotan give that ability to somebody. So, there are ways to make it a little bit more durable. And the nice thing about this book, same with Fyreslayers for the most part, and a lot of these books, is everything can be played. You could run, what do you have, 26 eels or something?
Yeah.
You could run, or 27 eels. You could run a list
They're
of
a little
eels.
Too expensive, really.
They're a little bit... Yeah, they're a little pricey.
I've been trying.
But you had about 18 now
is
in
where I'm
this.
feeling comfortable.
Yeah, but you could run all eels, and it would probably do fine. And you could run... Leviathans are like the one thing that really
you can
breaks
run
my
one
heart.
Leviathan really well.
that they got so expensive, but and I hate that they made the crushing charge if you do your stomp you get D6 because Hunters turns that off, and on a 500 point model,
and it also sucks that particular interaction because the Nautilar sub-faction now gives them a monstrous action. And so you're now trading out your crushing charge stomp for the extra mortal wounds into your Nautilar.
Yeah.
And you're never taking 2. so you just can't use both.
Yeah, well, and the nice thing about the really good thing about Nautilus is that it's a monstrous action that affects yourself, so Hunters doesn't do anything against it.
Right.
But
and it's great against durable, tanky monsters.
yeah,
Sure.
but that model is just too expensive. I feel like.
I think it's easy to run one.
Yes.
Yeah,
But there's just, your 3 list is dead in the water.
still 500 points is.
But it does so much buffing as well as being like good. It's not great. It's not as good as it was.
Yeah.
But it's still fine.
There's a case to be made that if you really build around it, it's just as good as it ever was. But it's a very different thing than it was before. Before it was just this thing to bully objectives. Right?
Yeah.
And now it's a buff piece. It's a central castle piece.
Yeah. Alapexes are still great.
Mm-hmm.
In either configuration.
I think they're like better.
Yeah, the harpoon and the net launcher are both great.
Shooting for the whole army.
Like
is
the shooting's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Reavers got a little bit worse, but they needed to. But the
From that 1 month.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and Reavers got worse because so their points went up a little bit, but just the buffs don't affect them, and that's what a lot of people are saying is the downfall of this book is that buffs don't affect your mounts,
Sure.
like the king, and a couple of the other like random +1 to a hit, +1 to attacks characteristic, except your mounts.
Right.
The only thing that gets around that I on the top of my head is Lotan, which is the +1 to wound, and that affects everything. So that makes Lotan even more affordable, or even better in an army where you're running a bunch of mounted,
Right. If
units.
you're running a ton of eels, for example.
Yeah, if you can get him there.
Right.
But you don't want Lotan in combat really, so you just
No.
run him all the time.
Yeah, I think if I'm building this army, I'm always building it 1 drop right now. You sacrifice getting like stuff in the hunters, which sucks.
Yeah,
And that's always a trade-off: is you lose an artifact and you don't get hunters when you go 1 drop.
Sure.
Yeah, but I think the value that you gain from just being able to choose
Because something
prior
coming at
order.
you is never going to be as fast, and then when you're coming back, if you can guarantee giving away first turn, I mean, and then shooting's never a concern.
Yeah, shooting's well.
It depends. I like the ally in units. I believe that the allied in units still benefit from having to be the first unit.
Yeah,
so-
Yes.
Yeah.
They don't get the defense of it.
Yeah, so
Right,
if they're
but they can
behind you,
defend other units.
if they're behind Idoneth units, they'll still be able to be shot.
Right.
If they're in front, your entire Idoneth army is untargetable at this moment. I think that was originally how it worked with
It
the
is.
old book, and then they changed
No,
it.
they
They
never
didn't
did.
change it in the old book.
They didn't.
So
change
this
it.
is just always how it's been.
Constantly called for, but never
Okay.
happened.
Yeah.
And shocking that they didn't change it coming into this, because if you can really do well positioning like 3 Aether Wings here and 3
Right.
Aether Wings there, it really sucks. to
Yeah,
be
for
shooting army.
130 points or 125
Yeah.
points.
65 for 3 of them.
Yeah.
65,
At
so
least
yeah.
Ether Wings have gotten a little bit more expensive than they used to be.
Yeah.
They used to be 45 for 3.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good book. It's just
It's
It's-
challenging. It's got weaknesses and it's got strengths. So that's
it's
how a
one of
book
those,
should be.
Yeah,
right?
it's one of those things that like if you play against a really good Idoneth player, you're in trouble
You're gonna
no
get
matter
smoked.
what you do.
Yeah.
And now I just have to figure out how to become a really good Idoneth player.
Which is a great place for a book to be.
I love a technical book.
Yep.
I
Nice high skill ceiling.
Yeah, I play Seraphon. Seraphon is like everything can be played, and it's all you just like put your models on, put all your Stegodons out, and shoot some stuff, and Bastillodon shoot some stuff. And this,
Well, Seraphon's been under the radar best book since it came out.
yeah, I don't think it's
still
been
is.
under the
Yeah.
radar, but
But it never gets hit. It never. It takes
well,
little.
salamanders get
Well,
knocked up and
Bastillodons
up
get
and up and
little-
up.
That's
bits.
the beauty of the book, though. When that Seraphon book came out, it was a topic of discussion that you can throw nerfs at pieces of that book, but the book is so deep, the book is so varied, that as you're plinking things off the top rungs, that's all right. I got other options.
Yeah.
And that's good. Like I love a book like that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, these technical books are, I feel like, so much more rewarding to
Gratifying,
play
yeah.
when you
Yeah.
when you win a game.
I
And-
like just playing dumb armies that you just push stuff up and you might
Yeah,
get hit back.
They're
or
all
whatever.
green, and
Yeah.
you just force them forward.
2 more things to add about the book. One is that it is an excellent rock
Yeah.
to
This was
shooting
my point
scissors.
I wanted to make. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was part of like, oh, it's the Idoneth meta now. It's just that they play so well into shooting.
If you're playing into melee, it's really about your positioning. It's really about your turn priority and things like that. If you're going against a shooting focused list, it is going to be a long day for them.
Yeah.
They're going to have problems.
As an Iron Jaws player, Iron Jaws has never been bad since the new book came out.
Yep.
But it ebbed a little bit when the shooting got so good that you could pretty easily lift your mega boss. So you had to kind of make concessions to get to one drop. Blah blah blah. Now I'm just loving everything. Like Nurgle's balanced everywhere. Okay magic. Okay damage. Okay or great durability.
Right.
And then you got Stormcast, which is kind of just good all around, but shooting and it's just like it feels like we have so many different things to play right now that it's exciting.
Yeah, and it's nice to see like so you have okay damage, okay this, really good durability. Idoneth is like super damage on a lot of their stuff, like great movement, and their durability is kind of down. It's like picking a card in Mario Kart.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Like you look at the.
And that's not what everybody wants, right? Like everybody has their own Street Fighter guy they always pick, and the strengths and weaknesses there. So this is what this is exactly what I want out of it.
I think it's Super Smash Bros. Characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of us are a little
the
older
big
than
heavy
others, so.
Yeah. I'm really liking this book because it's making me think a lot about the army before I even get it on the table. Like, what do I want to bring? How do I want to...
And deployment. It's
Yeah.
just so insanely big right now.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say is just that the rules fit the theme really well. And this is true in the Fyreslayers book, it's true in the Nurgle book, it's true in this book. The feeling of these ocean-going pirates that hit and run and that come out of the ocean or the ether sea at a moment's notice and hit you before you can really react, perfectly nailed that. The fact they're a glass cannon fits into that perfectly, and I really like how they are making sure to check the boxes on rules match theme.
Yeah. Well, I mean, next month we're definitely going to be complaining about how good they are. But
Sure.
for right now, we're so
Once people
optimistic
start,
it's fun.
Once people start really getting like, oh, this is the build, and everybody
Right.
just brings that.
Oh, the latest tournament just had 5 of the top 7.
Well, Adepticon, which was like a huge tournament, 3 Idoneth lists, and you could use the new book. I was like floored from that because I feel like a lot of people have Idoneth armies just
People
kind of
aren't
sitting on
ready
the side.
for it yet. It is a technical book, and refining those lists and getting models painted, getting your list, because the lists are so different than they used to be.
True.
Getting your models ready, it's a big ask for a book like that.
Last thing I want to talk about this book is I love a book with actual usable battle tactics. There's like at least 2 that I've used in the last couple games. There's one where like if there's an enemy unit within 12 inches of a ship, by the end of the turn, kill that unit. And then there's one that's kill 2 units when you're affected by high tide.
You mean you don't enjoy like? Is there anything in here I can use?
Yeah.
I'm totally tapped out.
I just love those because they're so specific. But when they come up, it's like, oh, this is gonna be awesome.
Sure.
And they free up. We talked, I think, in our first episode about how important choosing when you pick your battle tactics are. Just giving you a couple more that you can actually do that aren't like some of the ones in the White Dwarf that are like, a little ridiculous. Like these actually open up some really good options.
And they're already going to be an army that's pretty good on battle tactics anyway, because you've got the ability to take stuff off the table. Obviously,
But they don't bring a lot of monsters, which hurts them.
They don't. But
no, they're 500 points now.
Yeah.
In turn 2, you can guarantee a ferocious advance because you're going to be running and charging all over the table and running and shooting. And so they're going to play well.
Savage Spearhead's
Just
easy.
Yep, for sure.
One last thing. I do think we should qualify. There needs to be like at least one fix is that you can't use multiple kings to get that effect. If it's once per game, I don't want to see 4 king lists that are just rolling through every turn, attacking first. And then I don't know exactly, but I kind of think the stacking 3 minuses to save from the Eidolon is a little too good, so I'm hoping they make that different units. And then I'll be super happy, but
I played it against Siege, and I didn't get that spell off once. So,
you shouldn't get
so
Siege.
Who knows?
Yeah, that was the last point. I think this book, as another rock, paper, scissors, is going to bring magic back in, because that's another weakness they have is to magic, and then, well,
and
we kind of
magic
beat that horse
has
here.
been on the wane, which is, there was a solid year where magic was everywhere, and now it's tipping down, although Seraphon can still bring that in spades.
Yeah, right?
Because it's Seraphon.
So the other big update that we had, in addition to the 2 books, was the Hunt.
Yeah.
The new battlescroll update, which has taken the meta by storm, or maybe less than that.
Oh, yeah, it has done something.
It has done something.
It has done a little bit.
This is a new way that they try to tackle balancing in a really kind of interesting way, a different brave avenue that they're going down, unlike anything else they've done.
They typically aren't brave with the balance.
No, they are not.
We've talked about the ineloquence or inelegance of just raising points.
Right.
So this is what we've asked for, is a change.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like we talked about. I don't know how much it's going to move the needle on a lot of this stuff, but it's a change that isn't just raising points, isn't limiting units. So
in a nutshell,
so just before we get too far into that, they made particular units. If you kill them during the game, you get an extra battle point or victory point. Yeah,
and there are a handful of units where it's 2 extra victory points. Right?
Yeah, they killed giants successfully, so they finally put the nail in the coffin there. And then they made some of the weaker armies prime hunters, which if they kill one of these units, they get another extra point. So now we're talking about 2 victory points, potential swing from some of these units. So,
right. And what we're really talking about here is the worst offenders in Stormcast, so Dragons, Fulminators, Longstrikes, the worst offenders in Legion of the First Prince, so basically everything
you bring.
And then Mega Gargants.
And all the stuff in Death.
And nothing at all in Death. And then some things from the Bow Snakes list as well.
Yeah.
Also,
Salamanders.
Also the Wind Spirits.
Yeah.
And then Bastiladons and Salamanders.
Right.
So. And I don't think anyone's going to argue that all those units aren't issues.
Right. There's some interesting exclusions. There's some units that probably warrant consideration there. And a Kellyan King could maybe show up in there.
Yeah.
But this came out right before that book, right?
Yeah, so it could still show up.
See how it works.
Yeah, we're so early on. I'm hoping they'll be actively updating this stuff. But
the entirety of Gloomspike Gits is in there for Prime Hunters.
Yeah, the Prime Hunters are Sylvaneth, Gloomspike Gits, Khorne, Orc War Clans, Night Haunt. Wait, did I say one wrong?
Yeah.
Alcion Reapers, He Knights of Slanesh and Skaven.
Khorne is not in there.
Yeah. I mean, they're so strong right now that they are the worst. I will go as far as saying they are the worst army in the game right now.
I mean,
they're right there with Slanesh.
Against that. I mean, I would say Khorne probably has a little bit more play right now, but not really.
What about Gits?
Gits, because of Kragnos, has stuff to do.
Carrying Gits around.
Yeah, but that's another if you bring another unit in from somewhere else, it'll be good.
However you get there. Right?
Well, the other thing is I'm wondering if AOS coaches have been talking about this a lot. If you bring just heaps of little grats and you throw them on objectives, can you get rid of them?
The meta has skewed so high to elite damage, high damage attacks, that just volume of bodies, I think, does have some play again.
Well, I mean,
it's not good play.
Right, it's not fun play, but it's there. But I think the bigger exclusions, not necessarily on the Prime Target side, but on like I said, on the Prime Hunters side, Flesh Eater Courts could have been in there quite happily. Caradron Overlords could have slotted in there, and nobody would have really complained about that. And then Khorne, obviously, like you said.
Do you think it's affecting other than with Giants? Because right now, if you kill a Gatebreaker with a monster, that's just 4 points before you do anything.
Well, it's 3. You killing it with a monster doesn't give you anything, but
if you did I
if
should
you did
qualify.
Slay the Warlord, for example,
Slayer, bring
I
it
should
down.
add another rule. I forgot about it.
Yeah, sorry. If you do one of those,
but if you kill a Mega Gargant, you're probably getting a battle tactic on it because you probably plan to kill it.
Yeah.
These things don't happen accidentally.
And their battle line too. So there's 4 things they count for in them.
Right. So yeah, you are bringing up a heap of points there. If you can kill Gargants quick, you can score a lot of points.
But do you think it's affecting any other list building right now?
There are some interesting choices that you start to have to make. The Khorne Demon Prince was already a little bit borderline in a lot of Legion of First Prince lists. Really good in some matchups, really kind of poor in some other matchups. And now he maybe doesn't make the cut for a tournament list because he now gives up a victory point too, right? Maybe it tilts it that way. In Stormcast, you start to make some choices about maybe you run Adjudicators instead of Long Strikes. adjudicators are not a lot worse than
No,
long strikes.
you could see them showing up on this list if people start making that change.
Right. The books that are really good, like Stormcast, really good and deep, and Seraphon's in the same boat. They have such a deep roster that if you start to knock down some of those top choices, maybe people start making different choices, but they don't make worse choices.
Honestly, I just say just bring the best. If you're playing competitively, just still bring the best stuff because it's the best stuff. I did notice that when we played and you were on Legion of the First Prince, there was a couple turns where that extra point kept me in the game, where I would have been totally smoked without it. But so there's like, but I was also playing with Nurgle, which is I still think a pretty good book, and you know I don't know if it's going to make a difference for. You know.
When I look at my Legion of the First Prince lists, they've still got Be'lakor, they've still got Kairos. If they were going to have Kairos, they still have Kairos, because Kairos isn't going to die unless I'm losing.
Yeah.
And that's one of these things. This is when you're winning against a prime target, you now get more victory points. But you were winning anyway.
Yeah.
When you're winning against Gargants, you now get a lot more victory points. But you were winning anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to bring Kairos and Be'lakor, obviously. I'm still going to feel comfortable fielding a unit of pinks because there's still 50 wounds to chew through. Or if you reinforce them, there are 100 wounds to chew through. And yeah, your opponent's going to get 2 victory points for getting through that. Great, I'll take that trade.
Yeah.
And the one big change there, Khorne Demon Prince maybe doesn't make the cut. I'm not going to summon the 5 pinks anymore from Be'lakor because that's 1 victory point.
Which is appreciated when you're going against that army. I'd way rather see the Plague Bearers.
It is a little bit of a tone down, but it's not a huge one.
Yeah. That's something I was wondering if that's... I assume that's intentional, right? Because like Gaunt Summoner now brings 5 pinks in, and those are worth a victory point. I assume it's not supposed to be starting army. Otherwise, anything you could summon in would be, and pinks you can definitely summon in.
It certainly seems intentional for now. I mean, maybe they'll reevaluate that down the line, but I don't see a problem with how it's at right now.
The reason I like this is that I think it's actually done a little bit, and GW has shown us over and over again they don't really understand how to fix points. Like that's not there's never been their strong suit. Like the 5-10 point tweaks here and there, or the total killing of units has not. Points have never. I don't think points have ever fixed anything to a great extent.
You have to go real hard on points to fix a problem, right?
And then that's just like, this is at least fun and interesting. I don't know. If I trusted them more on points, if they really like looked at them more often, I would be more optimistic and maybe like this less. But I'm fine with this as an update.
The thing that I really love about this, I don't know that this fixes the meta, but what I love about it is. And this kind of goes back to how they handled the Dragons release too. They seem to be, and this is pure speculation, but they seem to be being a little bit more mindful about the fact that people have bought, built, and painted armies of a certain size with a certain unit composition. And when you do mess with points, or you nerf a unit, you now have made someone's investment potentially not viable. So maybe my 2,000 point army is now 2,100 points, and I need to take one of these units that I've lovingly crafted and pull them off the table because they don't work anymore. This change doesn't touch that at all. You can still run the same army you were running yesterday. Maybe you give up a few more victory points, but your army is perfectly legal and still does what it did when you bought it.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Just the ability to bring all your stuff that you wanted to. But this does make you think about things that you wouldn't normally think about. Like the other day, I was building a Seraphon list for a game that I never ended up playing. But I was like, I wonder if I could bring an Ark of Sotek on a Bastiladon, just to like grab some objectives and just sit on them. Because a lot of the times the Bastiladons are sitting on objectives and I get 2 hits through, and I'm like, Ark of Sotek's it's like 85 points cheaper and doesn't give up an additional victory point.
The answer, if you're wondering, is still no.
Yeah.
You can't.
I mean, when you see a demon on the other side of the table with a Bastiladon, it's just the sweetest of sweet.
Yeah, but it's stuff that makes you think, and it still gives you the opportunity to play all the units that you have and everything you want to bring.
And the meta's not really in a bad spot. Like,
no,
Ossiarch Bone Reapers that's on there. I think there's a lot of good Ossiarch Bone Reapers. There's at least 2 good Ossiarch Bone Reapers armies.
They're prime hunters.
They need
sure.
help. For sure.
But you could go to a tournament in 4-1 with Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and nobody would raise an eyebrow. There's a lot of armies that can 4-1 right now.
Sylvaneth, same way. Right? Sylvaneth is in a rough place. Their win rate isn't where we'd like their win rate to be. But there's a lot of strength in that book. They can get wins. They can do a lot of interesting things. Yeah. And now they can pick up some extra victory points on the way.
Yeah.
And even Skaven's got a couple builds. Yeah. He Knights of Slash's.
I've never seen the Skaven builds. I've never played against them because you're the only person I've played against with Skaven.
That took about 7 minutes.
Yeah, that was one of the shorter games I've ever played.
I thought that Storm Fiends were just really good.
They are. Yeah, it must just be a play skill issue.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Good try, good attempt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Proof will, there's still more evidence to come.
Keep trying different things. Keep enhancing these things that you're trying.
Keep the point changes at least twice a year. Let's stay with that.
I definitely want that as well. But kudos on them for trying something new.
Yeah, and like you said, the top armies, the guys who bring some of this stuff, they're not going to change what they're bringing.
Yeah.
Because, you'll still
I
see if you can kill it.
You're bringing Raptors, Phones, or Storm Drake Guard. You just are. It's always going to be in Stormcast.
Yeah,
so.
You're probably
Nobody said, "Oh wait, I'm going to lose a point on my Mega Boss on Crusher. I'm not bringing them in IJ anymore."
Yeah.
So we are fortunate enough to be relatively close to Chicago, to Schaumburg, Illinois.
Not even relatively. Yeah. I was just saying we're down
an
hour
and 45 minutes or so.
Close.
Yeah.
And so you made it down to Adepticon this past weekend, right?
Yeah. So I've been to Adepticon before. I didn't play in it, but I just went down there for Friday to check out some of the vendors and check out the play space. And
here's some video of the play space.
Yeah, I took some video while I was there. Everybody, it is such a cool environment to get into a room of, I don't know how many people go to Adepticon, but just tons of AOS players, tons of 40K players, vendors. There are people like commission painters who are there.
It's
just
everything you could ever want if you're a miniature player.
Yeah, and people who enjoy just talking about this stuff and, buying stuff, trading stuff, selling stuff off. And when we went there, so if you've never been to Adepticon, you go into, there's like a couple hallways in the beginning, and then there's a whole room for the AOS area, like a venue, little hall.
Basically, if you've been to a wedding in a hotel in a large ballroom, that's what you're going into.
Or you've had a conference about a timeshare or something. Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Nice pattern carpeting on the ground.
And it's actually a really comfortable space. The tables are well spaced apart.
There's drinks.
Yeah, there are drinks. One of my friends got a mixed drink that was $21, but yeah, super affordable. But you go there and there's reps from Games Workshop and people you would recognize from YouTube. Matt from Mini Wargaming was there. A couple of the Art of War guys were there playing their stuff. I think John Lennon won the 40K thing. He's from Art of War. And
John Lennon, I've heard him. Super famous. Yes.
Yeah.
Jeez, John Lennon goes up at the con. Damn.
Yeah.
I know the Warhammer Weekly guys, Vince and
yeah, I didn't run into them while I was down there, but
Tyler was there.
Yeah, I was there slinging some stickers and talking to people about Diecast. We met a couple people from Illinois who run game shops down there who wanted to talk about
tournaments or something.
Yeah, doing tournaments down there. And it's such a cool environment, and if you never get the opportunity to go to like a big tournament, like LVO, Adepticon, Nova, like if you ever get the opportunity to go there, definitely go there because any of those, just the atmosphere is so cool.
I think the best and worst part of Adepticon is it's like crack for the certain type of people that we are. If you're competitive and you like collecting, it's so hard to just go to Adepticon and just not buy something new.
Yeah.
But you're also gonna find a new game that you love. Like,
sure.
I never knew about. I basically didn't even know about tabletop gaming. I had such a small. I was playing Star Wars Destiny, a card dice game, and all of a sudden I see these models, and now I have basically. Yeah. Like most of the collection.
Yeah,
I mean,
you were staying
it's the
at that
wrong
hotel
person.
and just happened to walk down.
It's the wrong thing for some people to do, but
Yeah, and there are games that have nothing to do with Warhammer. we went upstairs, and there was like a Halo tabletop game that people were playing. There's 3 floors. The first floor is the AOS, or no, it's 2 floors. Sorry. The first floor is the AOS, and then you walk through into the vendor space.
Oh, and there's like a giant. Don't sell it short. There's like a huge convention hall.
Yeah, the first hall, the AOS space it's a giant room. And it was split between AOS was like, 3/5 of it, and then there was another game going on over on the side, and there's like Necromunda being played and the Warcry and all sorts of stuff in there. And then you go through, and there's a couple vendors in this little hallway, and then there's the main convention space, which has Games Workshop and Battle Foam. Battle Foam guys gave me a hat. I was super happy about that. A ton of like local vendors.
People taking glamour shots of armies.
Yeah, there's like the Golden Demon stuff. I'll get into that in a second. But the and then in that convention space is the 40K players, and
which is 1 million tables.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's just massive.
Yeah, and then they always have these big dioramas of like 40K armies with the terrain all set up, and then you go upstairs, and there's there was one that was just Titan Fight, which was if you know anything about like 40K Titans, Imperial Titans, it was like this guy had like 14 Imperial Titans, and he's like, a couple $100 will get you into this Titan fight if you want. And I'm like, you have $5,000 worth of models right here, and it was awesome.
Well, and the other cool thing is, like, we're talking about these big games, but if you know a game that there's like 10 people nationwide that play it, you go there, there's going to be 8 people there playing it, and it's the one time a year that they get to play with like the 7 other people. And even if the game went away 10 years ago, they're coming every year, and it's like the best time for them because they finally get to play their game again.
Yeah, and there were people playing Warhammer Fantasy. There were people playing I can't remember, something of Heroes.
It's just every game.
Yeah, like everything you can think of, and you talk to the guys, and everybody's excited to talk about their game.
And I think that's an interesting point you bring up, Justin, that for so much of our life, our tabletop hobby is a fringe activity. It's a side activity. We might not talk about it with our coworkers and things like that.
On the first dates, you,
right,
you hide. Everything's in the closet.
Don't open the closet! Don't open the closet! And that's becoming, I think, a lot less true. These sorts of activities are becoming a lot more mainstream. But for those of us that are maybe of a certain age, this sort of activity was really fringe for a long time. And then you go to a con like that, and everybody around you is talking about it, excited about it, accepting of it, and it's a chance to really just dive into your passion. Right?
It's like going to Comic-Con when you're the only person you thought knew about comic books. It's so cool,
and the energy is awesome. Like, it's just a really positive, fun energy.
There was a group that, and I wish I would have gotten their names. They were playing Gargants. It was a team tournament for AOS, and they were playing Gargants, and one was dressed up. He had like a American flag in his hand and a top hat. It'll be in the video. And on his base was a picnic, and he had a beer in his hand. And every time that they would like roll for a save or something, they would do like they both had these really deep, loud voices, and they'd be like, and then they'd roll, and then they'd slam the table, and everybody was just having a blast.
Yeah, that's
also the Golden Demon, like some of those paint jobs. I have some that I posted in our Discord, which will be linked down below. But some of those paint jobs that you don't see on the website are like, I don't even understand how this happened.
It's like someone shrunk down to microscopic level and had a little paintbrush and was painting details.
Yeah,
like
there's a Gloomspike gets one it looks like a book, like a diorama that somebody made, and there's 2 Mangler squigs. I had to look at it to remember the name. 2 Mangler squigs, and they're just painted in like these real like grimdark style colors with mushrooms all around them. It looked so cool.
Yeah.
And that skink was there. The skink one, just one skink.
The skank one?
Skink.
Skink.
Yeah.
Different things.
Really fantastic celebration of the hobby side, the passion people put into it, and I hate to use the word competitive when it comes to hobby, but the chance to compete at the highest level, if that's your passion, if that's what you want to do and put that time into, awesome to see.
And if I just want to say one little controversial thing. It might not be everybody's style, but if you're willing to run any event that has a crap load of people, you get to run the event how you want, because that is such a time commitment that I'm not willing to make, that I think 99% of people aren't willing to make. And it might not be up your alley. You might prefer just competitive straight, and that's what I prefer. But I'm never going to go against anybody that's willing to take their time to do that and run a tournament how they want it.
And, I mean, one maybe last note about Adepticon, unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, it's just it was such a great place to be.
There was a bunch of controversy about how the winners were announced and the things that fell out of there, but I have to give them credit for how they handled it, how they accepted it. The person responsible claimed responsibility, accepted that responsibility. I know people were negatively affected. It sucks.
It does suck.
It was kind of poor decisions and then human error coming together, and people were negatively affected. But I know that the tournament organizers, I know that people who were involved in that mistake feel awful about it. And
it doesn't ruin the fact that the event was, from everybody I spoke to, said it was an awesome time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was, and not even playing, just going there for a day. I was like, this is awesome.
Sure.
Last time we won was 2019, which I think was the last.
Yeah, it was
the last year they did it. So
yeah.
Just to be back there was awesome.
Yeah.
So after that, let's kind of wrap this up with things we're excited about coming down the road.
Well, one thing that we've already got that we're really excited about, a meta-defining White Dwarf update for the Blades of Corn, which everyone was super excited about. Everybody loves that army.
I mean, after you saw Beast, you just knew.
Ooh,
it's
suddenly
time
gonna get
for
there.
Blades to get fixed, just like Beast got fixed.
We had the preview. We knew there was going to be change to the shrine. We knew there was going to be change to some allegiance ability. We had potential there.
Oh, and it came out.
I've never, well, not in a long time have I seen an update that was hyped up for a little bit and then just never talked about it.
I mean, honestly,
it
did next to nothing for an army that needed a lot of help.
Yeah, I mean, so the change was that they got a 6-up spell ignore army wide. This is a useful thing, right? This is not nothing.
It's not nothing.
And then when they ignore a spell with that, they get a blood tithe point, which then goes away because they spend something more on the chart anyway. And then the shrine arguably maybe got better, maybe got worse.
But then you gotta spend points. The shrine lets like non-priest heroes pray for the invocations. But
right.
I don't know if you're bringing invocations if you don't have a priest. You know what I mean?
And the priest no longer has like the reroll, or the altar no longer has the reroll successful casting. So it was kind of a wash. I mean, it's not better.
It's different.
Yeah, it's different. It's not better. They got some battle tactics. They got a grand strategy.
I don't think it was worth the space on the magazine, to be honest with you. Like,
the grand strategy is maybe the most out of touch thing I've ever seen printed.
What is it? I honestly,
every round after the first, you summon a demon unit.
Jeez.
So that means four turns in a row, you are doing the worst thing that you can do with your blood tithe. Painful, grand strategy doesn't have to be good, whatever. But the fact that this is an army that's at the very bottom needed more help needed almost as much help as Beasts of Chaos. To come on the heels of Beasts of Chaos, which was the poster boy of what a White Dwarf could be.
It's still probably too good. Nobody plays them, but it's still probably too good.
And then to do this to my boys, my beloved boys, it is a good reason to be very angry, which I think Corn players appreciate.
Do you think the Beast of Chaos just set us up for failure with White Dwarf?
Well, there's other good stuff, like Asyak Bone Reaper's one was good.
Yeah.
And then
solid updates across the board.
And then one was great. And then you're like, well, we're at least going to get good here.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you got nothing. The saddest thing is when you see these come out, then you're like, well, that means I'm not going to book for a long time.
Right. Because the big speculation with the Chaos book that's coming is that it was going to be Skaven or Khorne. And then we found out that the White Dwarf update was going to be Khorne. It was like, all right, that's fine. Skaven's going to get their book, but we're going to have the White Dwarf update, so we'll be playable again. Ooh.
So bad.
Yeah, rough one. And, I mean...
And the Khorne is like the one thing, and we can probably just close this out. Khorne is literally, when I came into the game, it was like 2 armies that like everybody talked about, or like that was like the poster child.
First edition, all the starter boxes, all the collector sets, right?
Khorne.
It's Khorne and it's Stormcast. It's and Stormcast and Khorne, and like Khorne just feels so forgotten about. Like their book was fine,
I mean,
especially when they could use battalions, old War Scroll battalions. You could always do something interesting with them. Now with that gone, now with them having a super old book, now with them not getting good rule updates, and now with nothing coming down the line, they just suck.
And it's gotten to the point where if you want to run a bunch of Bloodthirsters, you're better off just running them in Legion of the First Prince, because then they can get like a ward save.
And in Bloodthirsters now, they used to be bad against average shooting. Now you put good shooting into Bloodthirsters, it's just...
And they used to be bad against things with good saves. Everything's got good saves now.
And it's a mess. But, you know, if it's only one book, everybody's got their time at the bottom, I guess.
Yeah.
Other than Seraphon. No, even they were bad for a while.
They weren't.
Other than
Seraphon
Elf
spent a while. But
Seraphon were an army you needed thousands of dollars worth of models to play in 1.0.
And if Daughters ever drops to A tier, they're like, oh, screw this. We got to make sure to get them a new book.
Another book. We're gonna nerf them with this hunt and then give them another book because it's been a while. So that's the other thing that's coming up, right? We've got Daughters versus Nighthaunt.
I haven't been super paying attention to the spoilers. Well, what are we thinking about what we're seeing coming out?
Not a lot so far. We know that there's a new hero for each, right?
And then the what do you call them?
The crossbows.
The crossbows.
I don't even know what they're called. I don't
they
think
don't
anybody
have
knows
another
what they're called.
Yeah, the crossbows. It's on the War Scroll.
I will find Craven Throne Guard.
All right, the crossbows.
And they are about as disappointing as they.
Somebody had to say it so that we had it on tape.
I mean, for right now, could it have been like threes?
Well, so we talked about this before, and maybe level set a little bit. They each get 2 shots. They're 4s and 4s, rend 1, damage 1.
But only 12-inch range.
12-inch range, which does put them in range if they deep strike.
Sure.
And they get to ignore cover. They don't get to ignore lookout, sir, but they get to ignore cover and line of sight. Although ignoring line of sight when you're at 12-inch range is not
that big of a deal.
But we talked about this before this unit ever came out. If this War Scroll was good, then they would be a staple in Soulblight. They would be a staple.
Yeah, they just be played anywhere you can alley.
Yeah, this needs to be bolstered.
So the War Scroll has to be bad, and it is. They accomplished that.
They got it.
But then it needs to be good because of the Allegiance abilities in Nighthaunt, and hopefully they'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you hope for. And at Adepticon, they spoiled just a killer-looking new model for... It's like a boat. A guy on a boat that's like crossing the river Styx. It looks really cool. Hopefully it's got great rules to match.
Yeah, you bring up the one model I didn't bring up on my tablet.
So I'm super excited about that
I
model.
don't think we know any rules for it yet, do we?
Right. It's a transport akin to something like a Soulscream Bridge or like a KO boat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We're not sure exactly right, but it's definitely a transport. And it's a really, really cool model. The boatman, who's like part of the boat, the ghost. The only disappointment that I had about this was that we had all these teases about this ghost boat and what it could mean, and a couple of rumor engines for pieces of the model. And then it turns out that it's like on a 60mm base.
Yeah, that's the thing. It looks so small.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a monster.
And Nighthaunt is this faction with 75 heroes on little bases that offer some benefit to the army, and good mobility with deep strike available.
Yeah.
And so now you've got another support piece that offers some mobility.
Potentially deep strike.
Awesome model. Very cool. I hope the rules are good. But I wanted so much for this to be this great big ghost boat.
Well, the one thing with Nighthaunt is nobody knows where it's going. It's been so average to below average for so long, and they just kind of need like a total rules refresh.
Yes.
And it's
so that they're better and not a slot machine.
Yeah, so you just really, I mean, I can't speculate. I know that Ethereal is going to still be there. I know that's
in the box. at least.
Yeah, in the box,
Yeah.
Ethereal's still there, and it looks like the heroes are giving bonuses again, but not as
But
well.
maybe worse, right?
Yeah.
And we do have precedent for the War Scrolls that are in the box not being the War Scrolls that end up in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happened. But if those are the War Scrolls in the book, the things we're seeing so far may be getting worse for both
It can't
pieces.
be. I just refuse to think that they
Yeah.
could take the time to write a new book and it wouldn't be as good. But
We've seen a couple books recently where we thought this is a trash book, and then on further looks thought it was really good. So maybe Nighthawk will get there.
if they make the fight on 9s, how good is that? That's a
It's stronger, but it's not more satisfying. It's not.
Nah, it's not
more fun to play.
It's
You
gonna
need
happen.
it to not be a slot machine.
Yeah.
What is the so we saw the night? Have we talked about the Nighthawk hero yet?
Yeah, the scripter Mortis, who has an ability that will, over the course of the game, do something like 800 mortal wounds.
What is it? You have to roll.
Any number can be rolled
So-
if you believe.
So the scripter Mortis, you document the name of a hero. It's very thematic. You document the name of a hero, and then on your next turn, you roll to see if you can roll less than the current battle round.
It's not equal to.
equal
It's
to.
only
It's only less
than the current battle round. And if you do 2d6 mortal wounds, but boom,
Yeah.
right, devastating effect. Even further leaning into the slot machine aspect of the army, even more into the small support hero, and not a good support hero, doesn't offer anything in terms of buffs.
There's a lot of book left to see.
There's a lot of book left to see, but we've seen that War Scroll.
Yeah, it's one of the hard things about judging, like, you know, what you see in these little, especially the boxes, is like, what does that mean for the army as it comes out?
Right.
And all the things that could potentially help it. The Craven Throne Guard might be awesome,
Right.
or they might be 170 points like Sentinels, and
If you drop the Craven Throne Guard into a Cruel Boy's Allegiance abilities, where you can buff their range and do mortal wounds, and then they have the Deep Strike, suddenly they start to become compelling. Barring that, just the War Scroll is bad.
So let's just say that there's more to be determined.
yeah,
Yeah.
Craven
Not
Throne
enough
Guard.
information.
Have we seen their War Scroll, or we've
No.
just seen their weapon profile?
We've just seen their weapon profile and the ability associated with that weapon, the Spectral Bolts ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is the daughter's hero.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of into that. Like
Real
all of
good.
a sudden it's making the so for this last book that came out, all of a sudden it was all about the snakes.
Mhm.
I thought the foot snakes were pretty good, but everything got outdone by the bow snakes, right?
Right.
And we used to think Sisters of Slaughter and Witch Elves were they were everything in the book in earlier editions.
You could
of,
stack enough buffs and auras on them
Yeah.
that they would just become a blender.
but they didn't have Rend.
Mhm.
And not having Rend now is just
They just have Mind Razor.
yeah, but that's 8 to cast.
Yeah.
It's not easy to cast.
Right.
Now we got a hero that just grants it to them, right, within a bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that now all of a sudden you can get a lot of Witch Elves and Sister Slaughter piling in 6, and they have Rent now. So
It seems like it's a compelling buff hero. My worry there is that it has a similar role to Lotan, but no shooting protection.
yeah, I mean 5. Was it 5 or 6 wounds? 5.
Yeah, something in that ballpark.
Yeah, she'll just die. But we keep talking about rock paper scissors, and maybe shooting comes down. And
Yeah.
Daughters is going to be good. I'm willing to wager that
This
the
is
Daughters book
really
will be
hot take.
solid as a rock.
Sure.
Well, and we look at books like Nighthawk, and it's like, well, they can't get like worse. Like they're not going to make the book worse.
And the books have been good so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then with Daughters, it's like, all right, do you have to make that book a little worse? You can't make it better.
Well, there's only one direction to go.
yeah,
I don't know.
It's-
You can make some units better. You can improve the diversity of the army.
yeah, internal balance, kind of level it out.
And
So
you
you've got 2 books that came out on that same day, right? You've got the Daughters of Cain book that came out, and the Hedonites Slash book that
Yeah.
came out as a paired release.
Yeah.
And the Daughters book, obviously the one that needs the attention.
Yeah, we don't talk about Hedonites because of how good they are. Like, when you're at the top,
Right.
you don't want to like.
But the funny thing is, how do people win tournaments with this? Like, I just saw another person win 5-0 with.
With Hedonites?
Yeah.
Well, one of them was Bill Souza.
Yeah.
a while ago.
That was like a really like cockatrice heavy army.
Yeah,
doing a lot of work.
leaning heavily into the summoning theme, which I think can be good.
So I mean, I think I don't have a lot to say about Daughters. You guys? I mean,
Well, we don't have a book, right?
And
we
just
got one new hero.
And it looks like it makes all of a sudden Witch Elves and Sisters better.
A buff hero that's probably going to be vulnerable. I mean, you drop it into the current army, and it's a buff hero that gets shut off right away.
Yeah.
I like the ability, the Killing Stroke ability.
Do you want to tell them what it is?
Yeah, it's pick an enemy hero within 1 at the end of the combat phase and roll a d3.
Right, yeah.
Add the number of wounds allocated to that hero, and then if you're equal to or less, or equal to or greater than its wound characteristic, it's slain.
I hate this ability. I think this ability is flawed because it's really a lot weaker than the text would have you believe. If you just, for example, take the headline that they used, and so this is a hero that can instantly slay other heroes. It's incredible. The ability is very, very weak in general.
Because you're never going to be within 3. First of all,
you've got to be within 3 of a hero that's got 3 or less wounds left. And if you're not in that situation and don't happen to roll a d3 that makes it to their wounds, it does nothing.
You have to be within 1.
If it's just a little extra, if it's just a little extra rule though for something that's already doing a good job buffing, it's fine.
Right. I just this is a trap rule. Yeah. This is a rule that a new player looks at and says, "Awesome, I'm gonna slay heroes."
See, I like it because it's not taken up to the next level.
Yeah.
It's not ridiculous.
This could just be do mortal wounds though, and it would do exactly the same thing, but also have an effect outside of that extremely niche circumstance, and not be too strong because other models have exactly that ability. The Skull Grinder in Khorne, famously powerful Skull Grinder in Khorne, has 2 up at the end of the combat phase, do D3 mortal wounds. Objectively, unless you roll a 1, objectively better.
Yeah, but I don't want it to do mortal wounds because it seems like you're a killing stroke and you're not doing an attack. If it was doing mortal wounds, it would feel like an attack.
Sure.
This is like the attacks I did were enough to slay you outright. I mean,
sure.
the thing that's the only thing that I don't know if I don't like about it. It's just that it's any wounds that they've taken throughout the game, like anything that's allocated to it. So if you get a character coming in on a couple wounds left, and you're like, well, I'll just charge into them and ping something off. But it's such a situational rule. But it's like if this comes up, it's like, well, I was done with battle tactics. Sure. If it comes up, you're gonna feel awesome.
2 interesting interactions. One is with Gotrek. You would love this ability on units with extremely good wards. It would be better than mortal wounds there. But Gotrek, if slain, just takes 1 mortal wound instead. So, not great against Gotrek, unless he's got 1 wound left, and then you can kill him. But the Varengard interaction is really interesting. Because if you kill a model in a unit of Varengard, and the Varengard are instantly slain because they've got 2 wounds left and all that too, what happens to the rest of the Varengard? You instantly slayed the unit, right? And so that's probably an interaction that will get fixed, but it's an interesting interaction. It's the one case where this is wildly stronger than mortal wounds would be.
We spent more time probably talking about this rule than we spent thinking about it. So. So, exciting things coming. Other than that, is that we know that KO is coming next month with new White Dwarf rules. So we got we're pulling the slot machine here. Are they gonna get the writer that did Beast, or are we gonna get the Khorne writer?
Well, they need a writer that's closer to the Beast, not as good as the Beast. That they need that level of update. If they get a Khorne update, they'll remain mediocre.
What do KO need? Like,
Rend.
Rend.
If they just had a couple paragraphs clarifying how boats work, that would probably be helpful at this point, because 3.0 boat rules are convoluted. Extra one Rend army-wide would be fine, right?
Well, just even if you can
take
it,
I guess.
on something that isn't the Ironclad, just so that, because 1 Rend is just not what it used to be.
If they gave them a bunch of great things to spend Aether Gold on, that honestly, that's the the right fix for KO right now.
Yeah.
They've got, on the heroes, they've got cool ways to use Aether Gold now because of the Broken Realms series. But the new triumphs are, +1 to wound is the one that you do universally, right? You don't do it on 1 unit per turn with your
Yeah, I forgot how bad that hurt them.
Yeah.
Right. That really gutted them. This used to be reroll saves, reroll hits, reroll wounds.
Which is
one
when
of those.
KO was
KO
a dominating
was
force.
awesome
Yeah.
with those. And the new triumphs gutted the Aether Gold ability, which is their allegiance ability, right? After that, it's War Scrolls and sub-allegiances. The Aether Gold got gutted for everything that wasn't a foot hero, and so if they really address that and make Aether Gold options for your Arcanauts, for your Thunderers, for your Endrin Riggers and Skywardens that are currently kind of unplayable, that could be a great way to fix
I
it.
mean, and that seems like something they would do. I mean, because they can't take the easy way out with like a terrain piece, which is what we've been seeing lately.
Yep.
So, I mean, the next place to look at is like they did with like Gits and stuff, is fixing some allegiance abilities.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if they just come out and say, these are 2 triumphs that you can use with Marines, and these are a triumph that you can use with your Skywardens and Engine Riggers, that kind of addresses a big hole in the army, gives them their allegiance ability back. Maybe not; they don't have to be as strong as reroll saves or reroll hits was. They can still be good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard when you have a rule, like an army defining rule that's tied to a core rule,
Mhm.
and then you change additions.
Right,
It's
and
like-
that happened in 2 cases with KO. The triumphs really hit them, and the change to garrisons really, didn't necessarily change them or make them worse in how garrisons work, but it's really muddy because the garrisoning rule for boats was clearly written with 2nd edition garrison rules in mind, and now 3rd edition is not as clean.
And I don't even like to think about it because I don't know how those rules work, and Garrison is like such a blind spot for
They
me.
work
like,
however your KO opponent explains it to you.
yeah. I mean, honestly, and even the fly high, I'm just like, my eyes glaze over when
Sure.
people try to tell me how that now works. It's
They
like,
just pick all their stuff up and put it wherever
Yeah.
they want.
Yeah, so I think a cleanup on those rules, just clarify those rules, and then fix the triumphs, and the army's good.
Well, and it's a great lesson in don't have your army rules reference a book that you then make out of date.
Update, yeah.
Or if you do, then that day 1 FAQ, fix it.
Yeah.
well, they needed a little bit of a bring down because the Triumph system was like so freaking
Super
good
good.
for them.
There were oftentimes games with my KO where I'd take my 10 block or 15 block Thunderers and I'd drop them in front of whatever hammer was there, and they'd be stacking -2 to hit with a Chemist there, and then re-rolling their saves on a base 4 up, and they were just an immovable block, which is not what my Achilles Sky Dwarfs should feel like. But
Yeah, and it's in theme with their. It seems like they're getting rid of re-rolls or making them harder to get. So realistically, taking those away feels like what they would have done anyway.
right.
Just
But now
not
give us something
to,
instead,
Yeah, just
right?
not to
Yeah.
where they went.
So that's what I'd like to see for KO.
And then we just found out that Slanesh is getting the update.
Yes.
So what is it the Fane or is the Fane of Slanesh? What's
Fane. The Fane is their terrain piece.
So what is it going to do now? Is it going to give them 1 extra summoning?
gonna-
I don't think they'll change the Fane.
Yeah, it's going to have points associated with it.
Yeah,
now.
they
You have
should.
to pay for it.
Yeah.
It's a 10% increase across the board.
Right. The
plus
Keeper will probably go to about 530.
What if they put the Locust ability back to how it used to be?
The current Locust is actually not a weakness of the army. The old folk Locust was better.
Because you could do it to
But-
yourself, right? Isn't that the big issue?
Well,
now?
that's the Keeper's command ability.
Yeah.
The Keeper used to be able to use their command ability on themselves. And so the Keeper, you just kind of assumed was going to fight twice. And the combat profile is appropriate for a Keeper that's fighting twice. Now they're fighting once. It's half as good as it should be.
Well, and even when we played, whenever we played,
It's been a while.
It's been a while with Slanesh, but I was so worried about you summoning these 30 Daemonettes, and then you summon them, and they just kind of fell apart,
Right.
like right in front of me. I'm like, oh, there's no substance to these units.
There's a lot of things that book needs.
Yeah, it's so weird. The mortals are so bad. I feel like they should honestly. You want to say just help the mortals. Yeah.
They've gotten some improvement with the points changes.
You just want. I feel like with all these sweet new models they put out for models, so they should have actually good rules so people want to buy those models. But like, you can't forget about the demons because it's not like the demons are any really. They're no better.
They painted themselves into a little bit of a corner with that book because the summoning is so good, or can be so good, that if the things that you're summoning are good, then that summoning is a problem. Right?
Yeah.
But they need a lot of help.
You know what they should have done is just put out a new book instead of Dollars a Cane.
That would be so exciting right now.
That would be the third Hedonites book in.
Yeah, that's true.
No
that
one would
be
complain.
Fast, yeah.
No one would complain.
But
about
they brought
getting
out like a whole new line with the last one, so
Yeah.
that made a little bit of sense to me.
Yeah, it's just rough when it's like book, and that's 3 books before Sylvaneth gets another book.
Sure.
Well, the
Get
funny
another
thing was
book.
like,
Or Gloomspite, or
Yeah.
if you look back to like first edition, I don't even think Slanesh like had a book. Like, Slanesh took a long time just to get their first book.
Sure.
Then their first book was just insane. And then they got like nerfed to pieces. And then
4
they brought out the
times nerfed,
second
yeah.
book and it was horrible.
Mhm.
And now they need one more to make it right.
The White Dwarf.
one more to make it right.
The White Dwarf probably can't get them there.
No way.
They need War Scroll changes.
Unless it's White Dwarf Slanesh. Like,
Right.
Yeah, the whole book.
Yeah.
They need War Scroll changes. Their units just need to be better. Their units need to be more thematic. Their units need to interact with each other in interesting ways. There need to be some synergies other than just the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be a fundamental rewrite of that, and then make the summoning worse.
yeah, just make the summoning worse and make a good book. Like,
But you've got to fix 90% of the War Scrolls in that book. We were talking about it at the Open. Legion of the First Prince is a ton of options from Tzeentch, interesting options from Khorne, even Blades of Khorne, as bad as they are, interesting options for Legion of the First Prince. Nurgle has a ton of play in Legion of the First Prince, and then the Contorted Epitome and arguably the Mask are the 2 pieces you would ever consider.
summoning is a crappy part of the game. It should be a small bonus to an army. It should be like Nurgle, where you can maybe summon a small hero, and then you maybe get a unit 10. That's one of my things I hate the most about Legion of the First Prince, is it is pretty easy just to keep bringing units on every turn.
I love the idea of flexible summoning. I love the ability to, and this is one of the things that I loved about the second edition, or the old Seraphon book. It wasn't strong, but it allowed you to do this. I love the idea of building your army on the fly based on the situation you're in. But yes, it can get degenerate really fast.
Well, and the problem with that book and that rule set is that you could build your army on the fly, but it all costs points, and now it doesn't cost anything.
Sure.
So you had to set aside,
That was
I'm going to
the
put
worst thing
1,400 points down and 600 points that I might summon
Once
in later.
second edition came along, that was no longer the
First
case.
edition
So
summoning was just
second
so
edition
lame.
Seraphon, second edition Seraphon was in not a good place, but an interesting place, because you could say, against this opponent in this situation, I want these pieces.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of strategic play during the game, being able to be reactive in that way. Legion of the First Prince doesn't offer that, right? You've got a battle line you're going to throw out there. But I like that style, and I hope that some armies keep that summoning style.
I think you're overlooking the fact that they already fixed Slanesh, because it says right here, Prime Hunters, Hedonites of Slanesh.
Right.
Whoa, I
So
forgot.
We gotta see how this shakes out.
when Hedonites gets tabled in turn 2 by Stormcast,
Yeah.
that one thing that they killed,
The victory point.
potentially 2 victory points.
2 victory points. Yeah.
I'll keep you in it. All right, well, I think
we covered it.
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it again.
These are so much fun to do. It feels like we're just talking.
Well, we kind of are.
Yeah, it feels like we're just talking like normal, except we're all sitting on the same side of the table.
Nick's swearing so much less.
He's
swearing so much
Normally
less.
he throws stuff at us.
We've got a few plugs, as always. We've got our Discord linked down below. please join the conversation there. We're talking all night tonight, but please join us so that you can talk back at us and tell us all the ways we're wrong. Love to hear it. You can comment down below for that as well if you don't want to join the Discord, or if you're in the Discord already. We've got a Patreon if you want to contribute to the channel. Helps us with our terrain that we're building for our tables and everything else that we're trying to do there. And we have a tournament that we're really excited about. It is too late to register for the tournament, but we will be posting results and talking about those results, particularly in that Discord. And that tournament is next week. We're super excited about having the first tournament. I will play spoiler, so if we have an odd number, I'll make sure that nobody has to sit out for a round.
So you're not putting any skin in the game.
Nice.
Your reputation stays.
That way you can go. I guess I'll be. These are in my car. So.
You've got to have your excuse before you start your game. I'm a firm believer of that. In any game, you should have your excuse before you start.
Yes.
I normally default to dice. This time I'm defaulting to
It's crazy you say that because I have it on good authority that Justin wrecked his car so he wouldn't have to go to Adepticon.
That's true.
To play
I improved the corrosion of my axle and frame so that they would separate, and I was like, I'm still good. No,
so he set that up ahead of time, and then
$5,000 just to look at it, whatever.
But
congratulations to our friends that participated in Adepticon, both as tournament organizers. Brendan, you did a great job with it. And as players, Austin, congratulations on your 4-1.
With Crew Boys, which is... I think Austin is a horrible player. Normally he has to depend on Army any...
You don't hear about Crew Boys carrying
and now he's
such a low-tier player
slightly.
up to a high-tier result
now
like that. Now
changed my mind, so give him a little...
What a hard backfire that was.
Super well done, Austin. And super well done to all the players. It sounded like a fantastic event. And congratulations for how that executed and how it went. And we're just super happy to have you here listening to us and, like I said, joining the conversation in the comments. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel. We are starting to creep up toward our big goal, which is 1,000 subscribers, has been since the beginning. And so we're super excited as we get closer to that. Hope you'll join us by hitting the subscribe button.
And maybe we'll even do a giveaway. Like I have a bag of just random bits. I'll send it to someone.
He's got a rusted out part of his car that you can take home.
If anybody wants to see, an axe, I'll send pictures.
Did you mention where Spring Rubicon is going to be?
Spring Rubicon is going to be at the Games Universe in Mequon, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee. If anybody wants to stop in, it's next weekend, Saturday the 9th. Yep, Saturday the 9th. And it's going to be running all day there. 3-round tournament. And it should just be a good time. It should be a relatively casual environment. We've got some absolutely bloodthirsty killers of players.
Yeah.
But they're bringing casual lists, and should be a good time. Justin's gonna bring the filthiest net list he can.
Yes.
Obviously.
I gotta try.
And then he'll have car trouble.
Yeah.
Guys. The kids
I
are
lost
so
because
sick. The kids are so sick. Kids are basically the greatest built-in excuse.
There you go. You always have an excuse.
You were half an hour late tonight, and it was kids or something.
Yeah, I mean,
you're watching the Bucks game.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Night.